What if I told you the world's richest man didn't begin with money or privilege, but with a teenage obsession, staying up all night, writing code in a small computer lab? What if I told you the same man who once crushed competitors with ruthless ambition is now on a mission to save millions of lives with his fortune? This is the story of Bill Gates, the boy who hacked his way out of obscurity, built Microsoft into a trillion-dollar empire, and then transformed himself into one of the most influential philanthropists in modern history. But here's the question. Is Bill Gates a visionary genius who changed the world for the better, or a man who always wanted to control it? To answer that, we need to go back, not to Microsoft, not to Harvard, but to where it all started. A curious boy in Seattle. William Henry Gates III, born on October 28, 1955, grew up in an upper-middle-class household. His father, Bill Gates Sr., was a towering lawyer with a commanding presence. His mother, Mary Maxwell Gates, came from a powerful business family and later served on corporate boards, including IBM. From the outside, it seemed like Gates had every advantage, but inside the Gates household, life was disciplined, structured, and competitive. Dinner conversations weren't about small talk. They were debates, challenges, questions that forced young Bill to think bigger and sharper. Bill wasn't the kind of kid who blended in. He was shy, introverted, and buried in books, encyclopedias, science journals, biographies, and if it had knowledge, he devoured it. His parents noticed his restless energy and relentless curiosity early on. By age 11, Gates could read through entire volumes in a single weekend. By 12, he was outsmarting teachers in math. But everything changed when he was sent to the Lakeside School at age 13. That private school decision would alter the course of technology forever. Why? Because Lakeside had something almost no school, in the late 1960s, had access to a computer. Now remember, this wasn't the sleek laptops and smartphones we know today. Computers back then were massive machines, filling entire rooms operated with punch cards. They were expensive, rare, and intimidating. But when young Bill Gates saw one for the first time, he was hooked. It was like love at first sight. While his classmates saw a strange, confusing device, Gates saw a universe waiting to be unlocked. He spent hours in the computer lab, learning programming language, experimenting, and writing his first lines of code. His hunger was so intense that he would skip classes, even meals, just to spend more time with the machine. And then came Paul Allen, another Lakeside student who shared the same obsession. The two became inseparable partners. Where others saw a hobby, Gates and Allen saw the future. Together, they pushed boundaries, experimenting with software ideas far beyond their age. But here's the twist, their passion soon got them into trouble. Gates and Allen hacked into the school's computer system, not to steal, not to damage them, but to extend their programming time. When they were caught, everyone expected punishment. Instead, the school struck a surprising deal. In exchange for fixing system bugs and improving performance, the boys would get more computer time. That deal was a turning point. For the first time, Gates realized something powerful. If you have rare skills, the world will pay you for them. By 15, Gates and Allen were already forming their first venture. They developed a program that measured traffic patterns for local authorities and made $20,000 doing it. Imagine that, teenagers still in high school, already running a profitable tech business, while most kids their age were worried about grades and football games. But while Paul Allen enjoyed tinkering, Bill Gates was different. He wasn't just curious, and he was obsessed. He had a fire in him, a relentless drive to push further, go bigger and compete harder. His competitive streak was legendary, even at school. Whether it was math, games, or programming, Gates didn't just want to win, he wanted to dominate. Teachers saw it, his friends saw it, his parents saw it. Bill Gates wasn't going to live an ordinary life. Something was brewing inside him, a restless energy, a belief that he was destined for something massive. And yet no one, not even Gates himself, could have predicted that this shy boy, coding away in the corner of a school computer lab, would one day create a company that reshaped the digital world. The mid-1970s was a turning point in history. While the rest of the world was busy with disco music and bell-bottom jeans, a technological revolution was quietly brewing. A small company called MITS introduced the Altair 8800, one of the first personal computers. Most people didn't pay attention, but when Bill Gates and Paul Allen saw it, they instantly knew this was the future. They immediately contacted MITS, claiming they had already developed software to run the Altair. The truth? They hadn't written a single line yet, but that didn't stop them. Bill and Paul locked themselves away, coding for days and nights without sleep. Within weeks, they had built a version of BASIC, a programming language that allowed the Altair to perform tasks. When they finally demonstrated it, the program worked flawlessly. MITS was impressed, and Microsoft was born. From the start, Gates was relentless. He wasn't satisfied with just being good. He wanted Microsoft to dominate. His philosophy was clear: a computer on every desk, in every home running Microsoft software. That vision drove him to make bold moves. In 1980, Microsoft struck a deal with IBM, the most powerful computer company at the time. IBM needed an operating system for their new personal computer. Gates didn't have one ready, but he made a daring move. He acquired an existing system called QDOS, refined it, and delivered it to IBM as MS-DOS. It was a genius play. IBM's PCs became the industry standard, and with every machine sold, Microsoft's software spread like wildfire. Gates didn't just build a product, he built a monopoly. But Gates wasn't done. In the mid-1980s, he pushed Microsoft into creating Windows, a graphical user interface that made computers easier for everyday people. Instead of typing complex commands, users could now click icons and navigate with a mouse. Windows wasn't perfect at first, but over time it crushed the competition. By the early 1990s, Microsoft had become the undisputed king of software. Gates, still in his 30s, was a billionaire, the youngest self-made billionaire in history at the time. But more importantly, he had achieved his dream. Microsoft software was running on nearly every computer in the world. Yet with power came enemies. Competitors accused him of using ruthless tactics to destroy rivals. The US government launched an antitrust case against Microsoft, accusing the company of being a monopoly. Gates defended himself fiercely, sometimes even appearing arrogant during court testimonies. But whether loved or hated, one thing was undeniable: Bill Gates had transformed personal computing forever. By the mid-1990s, Bill Gates wasn't just a businessman, he was the face of the digital revolution. Microsoft had grown so powerful that nearly every computer sold in the world ran Windows and Microsoft Office. For many people, the words computer and Microsoft meant the same thing. But with that dominance came scrutiny. In 1998, the US government took Microsoft to court in one of the most famous antitrust cases in history. The charge? That Gates and his company were crushing competition and maintaining an illegal monopoly. The courtroom became a battlefield. Gates, usually calm and strategic, came across as combative and evasive under questioning. The media painted him as the ruthless billionaire who would do anything to protect his empire. The government even considered breaking Microsoft into smaller companies. Although Microsoft eventually settled and avoided being split up, the case left its mark. Gates had learned a valuable lesson. Dominance came with consequences. But while critics accused him of being cutthroat, others saw him as a visionary who had dragged humanity into the computer age. And then came the internet. At first, Gates underestimated its potential. He famously admitted that he had been slow to recognize just how massive the internet would become. But once he realized its power, he moved quickly. Microsoft launched Internet Explorer, integrating it into Windows and wiping out competitors like Netscape. Within a few years, Microsoft had won the browser wars. By the early 2000s, Bill Gates was the richest man in the world. But something was changing inside him. After decades of relentless competition, Gates began to think about a different kind of legacy. He no longer wanted to just be remembered as the man who built Microsoft. He wanted to be remembered as someone who used his wealth to change the world. Together with his wife, Melinda, he created the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which would go on to become the largest private charitable foundation in history. Its mission? To fight poverty, improve healthcare, and bring education and technology to the developing world. This shift was dramatic. The man once accused of being ruthless and obsessed with winning was now donating billions of dollars to fight diseases like malaria, polio, and HIV. He was funding schools, supporting vaccines, and trying to solve some of humanity's biggest problems. By stepping down as Microsoft's CEO in 2000, Gates officially began a new chapter, from tech warrior to global philanthropist. He spent less time worrying about competitors like Apple and Google, and more time visiting remote villages in Africa and Asia, seeing firsthand how his fortune could change lives. As Bill Gates transitioned from Microsoft CEO to full-time philanthropist, his image began to evolve. No longer was he just the ruthless competitor from the 90s. He was now seen as one of the world's greatest givers. By pledging to donate the majority of his wealth through the Giving Pledge, alongside Warren Buffett and other billionaires, Gates set a new standard for philanthropy. But the story of Bill Gates isn't without controversy. Critics argue that his foundation gives him outsized influence over global health policies, governments, and education systems. Some accuse him of using his wealth to shape the world in ways that align with his own vision. Even during the COVID-19 pandemic, Gates found himself at the center of wild conspiracy theories. The man who once dominated the computer industry was now seen by some as trying to dominate global health. Still, his impact is undeniable. Through his foundation, Gates has donated tens of billions of dollars, funding vaccines that have saved millions of lives, supporting farmers in poor countries, and working to eliminate diseases that once seemed unbeatable. Meanwhile, his old rivalries never completely disappeared. Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple, often clashed with Gates, accusing Microsoft of copying Apple's ideas. Yet the two shared a deep respect for each other. When Jobs passed away in 2011, Gates paid tribute, calling him one of the greatest innovators of all time. Today, Bill Gates is still one of the richest men alive, with a fortune over $100 billion. But if you ask him what he wants to be remembered for, he doesn't say Microsoft. He talks about saving lives, giving children opportunities, and solving problems that most governments struggle with. So what do we learn from Bill Gates? We learn that brilliance doesn't always look like a genius in a lab. Sometimes it's a kid who loves tinkering in his garage. We learn that vision is about seeing what's next, not just what's in front of you. We learn that success isn't measured only by wealth, but also by the lives you touch and the legacy you leave behind. Bill Gates went from a curious child in Seattle to the world's youngest billionaire, and then from the world's richest man to one of its greatest philanthropists. His journey reminds us that the true measure of power is not how much you take, but how much you give back. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest operating system Gates ever built wasn't Windows. It was a system of hope, designed to give millions of people a better chance at life.